Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Premiership Quarter. Today, I'm going to be doing my predictions for the Hawthorn Football Club for the upcoming 2024 AFL season. I'm going to be talking about my predicted best 23 for them. I'm going to be talking about a couple of their awards, including who will be finishing top three in them. I will be talking about their ins and outs from the off-season and where I have them finishing in the ladder. To start with, we are going to be talking about my predicted best 23 for them. In recent weeks and days, even, they've had a lot of injuries, which has changed the side quite a lot. This is my original team that I had made a couple weeks ago, I think maybe even a month ago. But there's going to be a couple changes that I'm going to have to make now. So the first one is probably going to be James Blank coming out of the team. He unfortunately tore his ACL, which it's not a great thing for them if they wanted to make a push to be as successful as possible as early as they can in their rebuild. He would be an important cog for them because they don't have another real set key defender. Sicily's quite undersized, and I don't think anyone else really would be in that position that they have established. So the next best for me would be Denver Granger Barras, and I had that as a switch. But then there was news either today or yesterday, depending on when you're watching this, where he has a toe injury and is going to be out for up to 3 months. So that only really leaves one option for me, which means Sam Frost gets into the team. Now, you just don't want him with the ball, really. He's a quick player. He runs too fast that his mind can't compute where he's at, and he does make some poor decisions. It'll work once or twice a month, but that's it, and you don't really want that from your key defender. And when he does go for those runs, he can very well leave his man, and if he does have a turnover, which he can be quite prone to, it'll be damaging for Hawthorn in a bad way. So Sicily, I've got as their next key defender. As I said, he is undersized, so he's probably best as a third key defender, not the second, which is why I have Will McCabe on the bench. Even though he is a rookie, he's a father-son. He knows a bit about the club already. So you'd assume with their key defensive injuries, he'd get a game. By the end of the season, whether or not he's in the team, with Granger Barras coming back, then it'll be up for debate. But I do have him early in the team early. It's just whether he solidifies his spot. But obviously, we know how good Sicily is, all Australian team. Whenever he's healthy, he just needs to clean up a couple of the acts he has each season, getting suspended a couple times. In terms of their mid-sized key defender, I've got Weddle. He is an elite runner in his own style. He is fun to watch simply because of his Weddle. And if he does improve, he's going to be a great player to watch. I see a lot of similarities between him and Nick Blakey, the Lizard. He sort of moves in a different way, but it's quite similar in terms of their patterns of run. So I think if he can get to a Nick Blakey level, then that'd be perfect for Hawthorn. I think Blake Hardwick is probably a great lockdown small. I've heard a couple of rumors that he might be playing forward, which is, I think, where he got drafted initially as anyway. But I don't think that's what they should be doing. I don't think they'd have a lockdown defender that they would have in the team, and he's perfect in that role. And then their two rebounders are Impey, who's that experienced one. He's done a few things for Hawthorn. He's quite good early in the seasons, but he does fade away quite late from memory. He's done that last couple seasons. And then the last one is CJ, and he has picked up an injury, so it'll possibly be Massimo D'Ambrosio, who they picked up from Essendon, being in that position early on. But I do think once CJ gets back, he'll take the spot again. I think he will be quite important for them when he's fully healthy. To talk about their wing spots, first one's pretty obvious. It's Carl Amon. He had a great season for them last season, as in his first, from coming from Port Adelaide. It's just really good for their ball movement. He's got a great left foot, and he can kick them from outside 50, which is always a bonus for a winger. Their other side is Josh Ward. He might be getting some midfield time, but I see him at least starting on the wing. But between him and McKenzie, it'll be a bit tough, but I think with Ward having a bit more experience, he'll get the nod over him. Now, to talk about their forward line, it was great that they were able to improve it to such a level. Obviously, Mitch Lewis, we know how good he can be when he plays. Just needs to play a full season for once. If he does, he probably will hit that 60-goal mark and very well could push for a Coleman if Hawthorn play a really attacking style. And that sort of brand can lead to them being a high-scoring team. And him just being the number one option always helps. Now, I like the Chol pickup. He didn't play almost at all last season for Gold Coast. They really preferred Casbolt over him. They didn't obviously like him, King and Lukosius. But in 2022, when there was no Ben King, I thought he was excellent. And I was really confused at the start when he wasn't getting games. There must have been something off field to leave him out because he is a talent. And there is some things that you can question with his work rate. But he is a goal scorer, and that's exactly what Hawthorn needed. And with the Kaczynski trade happening, I think it's a perfect pickup for them. They also got Gunston back, which is great. He's an experienced head. He knows the team. He's got great experience with Luke Bruce. So I just think it's a great pickup. And unfortunately, I don't have Luke Bruce in this team. Now that is an interesting thing. I will probably move Connor Nash here. And then I shall move Nick Watson here. That's my bad. I was not thinking clearly. Sorry about that. As I was saying, Gunston and Bruce have had plenty of years together, so they'll just have great chemistry. And then I think their smalls are actually pretty good. Dylan Moore will miss a few games early on due to injury, but the pickup of Ginnivan is pretty good. I think him and Watson might have struggles early on playing together. Their styles will need time to mesh so they can get the best out of each other. But if they can get good chemistry between them and take this year as best they can, then it'll be really important for them in the future. And then in terms of their midfield, I've got Reeves as their ruckman. He's quite clearly over Lloyd Meek. And I think he'll have a really good season for them. He's tall, he's great in the ruck. He just needs to sort of improve around the ground, similar to like a Jared Witts for Gold Coast. And then their midfield, I've got Day, who'll be injured early on, but he should be back by around round 4 or round 5, which will be great for them. Jai Newcomb and James Warple worked great for them last season. Warple obviously having a bit of a comeback season, you could call it. It just works. You've got Day as that more outside, Warple as that in and under with Newcomb, and then Connor Nash, who's that tagger sort of midfielder off the bench. You've got Connor McDonald, who's more of that forward midfielder. He could be very good for them. He's another one of their mosquito fleet, as some people like to say, if your team's got a good amount of small forwards. And then Nick Watson off the bench, who, as I said with Ginnivan, if you just get that chemistry together and their play styles do eventually mesh, they'll be great as a pair. As their sub, I've got Cam McKenzie. To me, he just sort of feels like that 5th or 6th midfielder. I don't see him getting over any of the top 4. I don't see him getting over Josh Ward or McDonald or even Watson at this stage. So I think by the end of the season, if he's not in the team, it might be a bit iffy to see where he's at least mentally, in terms of if he wants to stay at Hawthorn. Now, to talk about their best and fairest, I've got Newcomb winning it. He will be the number 1 midfielder, at least for the first 5 weeks, with Day out. He'll be probably polling quite well on the Brownlow if Hawthorn is successful, and I think he'll win it just over Sicily. basically a toss-up between the two, but Sicily does have some on-field issues with a couple. Then you never know, he might miss a few games. Obviously has history with it. And then a third, I've got Mitch Lewis. If he stays healthy, he'll poll well. He'll be super important to their forward line structure. And it's just, I have most people staying healthy in terms of these predictions for their starting 23. So that's why I've got him third. In terms of most goals, I've obviously got Lewis first. He is their number one key forward, and I don't see anyone getting quite close to him. I think there might be a 20-goal gap at minimum, maybe. And then second, I've got Chol. Even if he just gets to kicking over 40 goals this season, it'd be great. That's nearly 2 goals a game. If you're getting that out of your second key forward, that's excellent results. So he could be a really good pickup. And then third, I've got Ginnivan. I think Bruce might be rested a few games with his age. He can obviously kick a bag very easily. He's done that a few times still, but I think Ginnivan, he'll be exciting for them, and I think he'll work really well with their play style. Now, in terms of their most improved, this one's just sort of like a Mitch Lewis play every game type improvement. As long as he's playing every game, the statistical improvement will be enough in my eyes to be considered an improvement. Second, I've got Ned Reeves. As I said, I think he can take that Jared Witts level jump. He has obviously solidified that number one position. I don't see Meek getting above him. He just needs to sort of have a bit more impact around the ground, which I think he can do. And then third, I've got Josh Ward. As I said, I've got him slightly above Cam McKenzie. And by the end of the season, I think he very well could take over Connor Nash as that fourth midfielder. Now, in terms of their off-season, it was a pretty good one. They unfortunately missed out on Ben Mackay in free agency to Essendon, but they went for Radaglia, who also left. But drafting Will McCabe was an excellent result for them. He can be paired with Sicily for the future. And then they also got who else? They got Chol and Gunston, who I've talked about, and then a couple others in Bodie Ryan, who may or may not get games this year. I probably wouldn't think so. But in terms of who they obviously lost Tyler Brockman to West Coast. Not a big deal. You got Ginnivan straight back. They lost Kazitsky, got Chol straight back. Lost Brandon Ryan, got Gunston straight back. So they didn't really lose anyone too important. And if they did, they replaced it. So I think it was a pretty good off-season for them. To talk about where I had Hawthorn finishing, I had them 14th. I think they can honestly push for a final spot. A lot of people would agree with that statement. They think that they would be one of the biggest improvers for this season. However, I think they rely on a lot of young players, and putting a lot of pressure on them to try perform, to try and succeed really early on is going to be difficult for them to perform under. Obviously, they could do it, but they're dealing with an injury crisis. It's going to take a bit back from their talent that they're going to be able to put on the field. And I just think they won't necessarily do that. They could finish 14th where I have them, but it could very well be 2 games outside of the 8, which would realistically be a good result. So I just think the amount of talent across the board from like 6th all the way down to 14th is very even. And to definitively say that Hawthorn will be above all of those teams, especially now, is a bit ridiculous in my opinion. So I don't see Hawthorn pushing for the 8 anymore. I could have seen it earlier before all the injuries, but definitely not now. I might even have him dropping a little bit below because I think Geelong might push a bit higher. So I might change it to where they finish 15th instead because they don't have any real key defenders. Sicily is still undersized. But yep, that's my thoughts on Hawthorn. If you have any others, leave your thoughts in the comments below. I'll probably respond if you do leave a comment. If you like this kind of video and this style, subscribe to my channel. There'll be a lot more coming. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, and thanks for watching.